right. So, anyways, we're gonna go ahead and get started here. Yeah. We could be potentially, but I wouldn't actually do that. The only reason I'm recording the board is so that they can see me teaching and understand what we're doing in our lessons. Oh, I mean, teachers vlog on YouTube, yeah. They don't normally record their classes for like everyone to watch on YouTube. But I'm not recording you guys. I just took one little screen of them, but I'm just recording my lesson so that people can see our lesson.
Are you gonna post this whole thing?
Oh yeah, this is the agenda.
You should also edit video. I can edit it.
It'll be all right. All right. So anyways, today, guys, when you walked in, you should have picked up a couple of things. Let's go ahead and make sure our Chromebooks are away because we're not using them right now.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and go over the weekly agenda here first. You have a bell work handout that we are going to do first today after we go over the weekly agenda. And the focus on that is over writing style. And we're getting some of that writing style practice in. Then I'm going to go over supplies with you guys. How many of you guys do not yet have your supplies? They were due Friday last week.
What's the supplies?
So binder, at least a binder. You can have a notebook or you can have loose leaf paper in your binder. Either one of those is fine. And those different colored highlighters. That's essentially it. What you should have had.
Oh.
Yeah.
What size binder?
The notebook would be
1.5.
substituted for the binder.
No, it's in addition to. So it doesn't. You don't have to have a notebook. You can just put loose leaf in your binder if you want. I just need you to have paper for use in this
So
class.
we need a binder.
Yes.
You need a binder.
Mine's in my wall.
Yes.
Mine's in my
That's
house.
crazy.
Yeah,
Now,
mine's at home.
I'm not going to check it today. I'm just giving you a warning. Tomorrow, I am going to be checking supplies. So if you happen to not bring it today, bring it with you tomorrow.
Can I put a reminder on my phone?
Quickly.
Oh,
Yeah, Annie.
Can I use a folder? Can I use a folder?
You can. Can you get me a folder that has like the 3 prongs in the middle?
Oh, we could just have that the whole time.
Well, it's definitely not as good as a binder.
Yeah.
Like you're going to lose things probably that way. But
Metal.
if that's all you have,
What size binder?
that works. That works.
1 to 1.5.
Yep. Exactly what Tamina said.
Blister.
1 to 1.5 inch. That technically works, but I would warn you, you're probably going to lose things that way. It's not always the best.
It's fine because my binder has the part.
Okay. I have a lot of students who have giant binders that they use for all their classes, and they use folders like that with the 3-hole punch to kind of collect English stuff inside. That's fine too. I just need you to have some way to organize your materials, which we're going to be doing later this week as well. All right. Now, as a reminder as well, independent reading books. Those were due last week, but I still have some people in this class that haven't put their independent reading books for the library books on that spreadsheet. You need to be doing that because this week, Mr. Dorman and his library minions are gathering those books for us. They're supposed to get those to us by Wednesday this week, so if you don't have your book choice up on that spreadsheet, you've got to get that done today because he's gathering those things for us and you have to have it. Otherwise, by Friday when we have our independent reading book time, you won't have your book, okay? So make sure your library choice is up on that spreadsheet so that he can get that stuff together for us. It makes things a lot easier for him. All right, and that's essentially it. We'll be doing the bell work activity, then we're going to get to Harrison Bergeron again, finally. It's been a while since we had to do all the NWEA testing last week, which we're done with for a good long time now, thank goodness. All right, the rest of this week, as you guys are looking at your agenda, today and tomorrow we're wrapping up Harrison Bergeron. In fact, for tomorrow you guys are supposed to finish reading. We're not going to get all the way through in class, but we will get you pretty far into it. You'll finish reading Harrison Bergeron and answering your analysis questions for tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to have a final wrap-up discussion. We're going to go over your analysis questions. We're going to go a little bit more in depth with things like theme, author's voice and tone, all that good stuff tomorrow. You won't have homework tomorrow. Wednesday, Thursday, we're covering another short story. This is from Ray Bradbury, which if you guys have ever read Fahrenheit 451, he is that author. He also writes a lot of short stories. So we're doing one of his short stories called There Will Come Soft Rains. It's a weird title. It will make more sense later. And then Friday this week, we are going to go ahead and work on our independent reading unit and start all that with our independent books. Okay? Questions about today or about this week? Starting tomorrow, you guys do have your AC plug time periods. So before fourth period tomorrow, you'll make sure that you have to head to PLC, well, not PLC, sorry, AC or plug time. It should be whatever was on your schedule, unless you're going to an AP one, which they should let you know about that today, hopefully. All right? Questions, comments, concerns?
Plug time first and after.
Yes, so it'll go third period plug time, then fourth period. So it's gonna be what seems like a very long time before you guys get to eat lunch. Yeah, Annie?
When is this class?
Today? Today the class is over at, yeah, it's over never. No, that's not the case. It's over at 12:45, but we end our class at 12:15 to go to lunch. So at 12:15, you'll head to lunch until 12:45. All right. Any other questions? Okay. If we don't have any other questions, then I want you to go ahead and get out your bell worksheet because I want to talk to you about it. We're going to go ahead and go over that. All right. Now, we talked about writing style when we went over our notes from chapter 2 last week. But a good way for you guys to start developing your own writing style is to analyze the writing styles of the authors that you're reading and practice doing what you see that they're doing in their own writing. Okay, so that's a good way for you to start kind of deciding what you do and do not like and want to incorporate in your own writing. And having your own unique writing style is important because that's what's going to make people interested in your writing in the first place and want to keep reading it. If your writing sounds like absolutely everybody else's, it's just boring. So, if you're looking at your bell work today, I've pulled the first 2 paragraphs from Harrison Bergeron, and we're going to look at Kurt Vonnegut's writing style, kind of analyze what he's doing, and see if we can't copy his writing style in our own writing. So, we've got the first 2 paragraphs. I'm not going to read those out loud, but I do want to go over the note-taking part. So as you read these 2 paragraphs, I want you to keep a few things in mind. First of all, I want you to take some notes on his diction, his word choice. So what kinds of words is Vonnegut using in his writing? Ask questions like, well, is he more formal? Is he informal in his writing choice? Is he using big words? Is he using common language? What kind of things are you noticing that Vonnegut's doing? Then take some notes about syntax, specifically his sentence structure. Okay, he uses very distinct sentence structures through a lot of his paragraphs, especially his first paragraph. Look at his sentence lengths. Okay, does he have very long sentences? Is he using short sentences? Does he have a pattern of sentence lengths that he's using? And then if you notice any literary devices, I'm going to tell you right now that one's probably not going to be very prominent in these first 2 paragraphs. Okay, but spend a few minutes here. You don't have to do that last part yet, but I do want you to go through the note-taking part of the bell work. Analyze his style. What is he doing? Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's okay.
Can we just like
Yeah, you can bullet point, that's fine. If you want to like circle things in the paragraphs, that's probably a good idea too. Things that you're noticing or things that stick out to you about his style. Take a few minutes here. Look at that. What is he doing? What's his style like? What sticks out? What makes it distinct? couple minutes here.
That was this.
Alright, I know we're still kind of taking notes, that's okay. But I want to go ahead and have us share what we are finding so that if you're kind of struggling to find something, you can at least see what your peers are finding here. Make this a little bit easier for you. Let's see, Carson, pick a color. Blue. Alright, so notes about diction. What are some things that we're noting about his word choice, the way that Vonnegut writes the addiction? There's some notes there, Ellen.
Use these words like nobody, anybody, somebody.
Okay, so he uses a lot of repetition, especially in that first paragraph. Specifically with the word nobody. Here's a question. The word nobody, would you guys say that that is a formal or informal term? It's more informal, right? Like if I had to define what nobody is, I would say it's an informal word. If you wanted to say that more formally, how would you say that? No one, at least, right, is more formal than nobody. Okay, so we've got a repetition of the word nobody and some other terms. His diction is pretty much informal, except it becomes very formal in one sentence. Where is his diction very formal, Grace?
The last sentence.
The last sentence of which paragraph?
The first one.
Yes, so his last sentence here becomes much more formal. It uses larger terms. Okay, this seems to be more formal here at the end. Why do you think that he's done that? He's made a conscious effort to make that much more formal. What do you think, Emmanuel?
I think because he talked about the government.
Nice and loud for me.
Because he talked about the government.
He's talking about the government, okay. So he wants us to be more formal, to point out something about the government. Also, what do you think he's trying to say about the government and making that more formal there at the end?
I think that maybe he did it so he can like emphasize more towards the effective verb. So the first doesn't have as much effect as the last sentence.
Okay, so to give it more effect. Also, it kind of points out something about the nature of this government. What does it show us? If he'd been all lackadaisical with the sentence about the government, it might have shown us something else, but what does this show us, BJ?
The government is
Strict, yes. It shows us the strictness of the government by using those formal terms. The unceasing vigilance of agents of the United States Handicapper General, right? Makes it sound much more strict, maybe more hard-nosed. Okay? All right, so he's using that informality and formality strategically. What else, Tamina?
I think he's kind of using it to make the reader pay more attention to that sentence, because if you go from informal to formal, it'll make the reader think more about it.
Right. Yeah, he's pointing out something. He really wants you to focus on it. What else about that sentence that goes along with our syntax makes it stand out? Think about the lengths of those sentences in that paragraph versus the last sentence. It's longer, right?
Yeah.
If you look at all the sentences in this paragraph, the first ones are very short, simple sentences. Then we get to that last sentence and it's much longer. And that's doing exactly what Tamina pointed out. It makes it stand out. You really focus on that last sentence. So if we're taking notes on his syntax, he goes from simple sentences to a more complicated sentence at the end of the paragraph. Just abbreviating so I can save time here. Okay, so he goes to, from simple sentences to a more complicated sentence at the end of the paragraph. Okay. What else did we notice?
In the beginning, he ends with sentences with periods, and then, well, they're much shorter, yeah, but I was thinking more about, the pauses in between those sentences.
Okay.
Or, I think periods have more harsher pause than a comma does.
So periods for pausing effect. He really wants you to sit with some of those thoughts instead of continuing with sentences that have a lot of commas and conjunctions in them. What else did we notice? I saw other things as I walked around that you guys noted. What are you gonna say, Maddie?
Most of the sentences start with nobody and then a description and
Yes. What is that called, guys? Do you know the term for that? When it's similar structure, even if the words change, all of the sentences have a very similar structure. He goes, nobody was blank then blank. Nobody was blank then blank. Starts with a P. You use it in math class too. A P as in pig.
what's the second letter?
A. No. No. You guys are trying really hard. I'll just give it to you. It's parallelism.
I never heard of that.
Well, it's going to be a term that we talk about a lot this year. Parallelism. Okay, if you're repeating structures in sentences, he is repeating the same structure. It's not always the same words, right? He's throwing different words in there. But it's nobody was blank then blank. Nobody was blank then blank. Why do you think that he does that? Huh? Okay. Yes. Okay. Parallelism adds a lot of emphasis. It makes things stand out. Okay. Also, if you guys think about, we're going to talk about it this year. I don't think we've talked about it in previous years. The "I Have a Dream" speech, right? When Martin Luther King is giving that speech, he uses "I have a dream" repeatedly over and over again. Why? To show emphasis. Yeah. In a speech, how is parallelism really helpful? It's different than the written word because you're saying it out loud. How might that help your audience when you use parallelism in a speech?
It points out the main purpose.
Could point out the main purpose.
I thought that was called repetition.
If you're repeating the same words, yes. If you're repeating structures, it's parallelism. So he's repeating words there, but he's also repeating the structure of nobody was blank then blank. So that structure in the sentence is the same, if that makes sense. Anything else?
Oh,
Yeah.
The whole book or short story
Mm-hmm.
is in past tense, but for us in reality, it's not even a whole story.
Okay, so he's making the choice to put it in past tense. Why do you think that is? Why do writers decide between past and present tense?
Makes it work.
What do you think, Grace? Right?
Like at the beginning, I don't know if the whole story is in that sense, but like he's telling, it's like the exposition of it, so he's introducing everything that happened before what the story is actually about.
Okay, so he's kind of giving us the background information before he even gets to the story. But like, let's say you guys are writing a short story and you have to make a decision. Do I want this to be in past tense or present tense? What's gonna help you make that decision? What do you think? Think about things that you've read that have been in present tense versus the ones in past tense and how you engage with the text differently.
That's the point of view.
Okay, so it affects the point of view. What do you
I
think?
think with first person perspective, you can be less formal, and then with third person perspective, you can be more formal.
Okay, so your point of view could affect it, but the difference between past and present, right? Instead of saying BJ was in English class, you could say BJ's in English class and this is happening, right? How does that affect your reader differently? You think, Annie?
So like, you can question whether or not it's still happening.
Could be. It also makes it more immediate and more impactful, right? If you write something in present tense, it feels like it's actually happening right now, okay, which kind of makes things a little bit more pressing and important. All right, any literary devices that you guys noted? What did you say, Emmanuel? Personification? Where did you see personification? I don't know if that we could say that that's personification, because things that aren't human can drive you crazy, right? It's not that we're saying April is crazy. Yeah, what were you gonna?
It was a month. It was that, and it was a neck
Mm-hmm. Which,
metaphor.
well, it's just a
No, it's
descriptive
like,
adjective.
I feel like it's personification.
When you say something's clammy, what do you mean? It's like sweaty, moist. A lot of people hate that word. It's moist, it's a moist month, there's a lot of rain.
Boys month.
Okay, so clammy isn't necessarily personification either. It just means like kind of wet in a way. All right.
I feel like that word kind of sets up the tone for, you know, once he says that, I feel like it sets up for him explaining George Gagel's son being taken away. Because it's describing this wet and clammy month as he's also describing.
Yeah, so it wasn't a good thing either, right? Both of those things were relatively irritating and annoying. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move us forward here, but here's what I want you to do for this next step. I wanna see if you can practice stealing his writer's voice, his writer's style, okay? Now, you can do a couple of things. Try to at least implement one or two of them. Maybe, if you can, repeat his writing structure. Okay, you don't have to necessarily do nobody. All right, but he uses parallelism. See if you can use some parallelism amongst your sentences or a repetition of specific words over and over again. Maybe you decide you want to try to go simple sentences and then end on a more complicated sentence. Yeah, that's one thing you could do. You could adopt his informal writing tone, except maybe in one sentence that you make more formal for a specific reason. I'm gonna let you talk about whatever you want to talk about. You can talk about what you did this weekend. You can talk about current events. Anything, I don't care. As long as it's school appropriate for your paragraph, you are welcome to talk about it. Okay? So, go ahead and try to write 5 to 7 sentences. Try to steal his writing style. Use some of those attributes that we just discussed that he has in his writing. Yeah, you're stealing it. We're going to adopt it for right now. See if you can't adopt someone else's writing style. Practice that. I don't know how to do that. Yeah, right there. Yes, if you use all right. I hear a lot of talking. We'll go ahead and take a brain break after this, but let's get through this first.
I can't even get through this.
Yes, you can. Yeah, we can. So what are some things that we noted that you think you could try? Okay, you could repeat words. Maybe you could try the parallelism, right? When he said like nobody was blank blank blank. See the structure and sentences. Or you maybe we could try his all short, simple sentences and then one complicated sentence at the end. See if we can't borrow some of his language here. Try to mimic his writing style. It's a good way for you guys to start getting better at your own writing style is by practicing adopting other people's. By using model text.
So you can look at the structure of your sentences. So you can say, the blank or blank. So you're not saying, the blank or blank. As long as your structure of your sentence is the same. So like, starting with the, and then you have the same word. And follow that structure for the next sentence.
Okay. No, I'm just laughing about your content, not what you're doing. So, when you introduce things in this way, you would say at school, mask, at school, mask. Yeah. So it's a good way of doing that. It really emphasizes that last word when you introduce your colon like that. You could technically do a comma too if you wanted to. Rocks with that. The colon's a little stronger. All right, just a couple more minutes. Go back and move forward here. If you're already done, I want you to make sure first that your name's at the top of the paper. And then I want you to kind of note some of the things that you tried to do in your own writing. Maybe circle it in your notes or write it again underneath your paragraph so I can see what you were attempting to copy. Whether that was parallelism or repeated sentences, structure, repetition, informal tone, all that good stuff. All right, as we're wrapping up here, would anyone like to share their paragraphs?
I want to, but I'm not sure.
Okay, go ahead. Annie, can you put your phone away, please? Thank you. Go ahead, Maddie.
After drinking all the rest
Okay, I'm gonna pause you, Maddie. We gotta be louder because the mask is muffling everything we're saying. So I know it sounds weird, but you gotta like be be very loud. I'm almost screaming right now. I know it doesn't sound like it, but that's essentially what I'm doing, so I can be loud enough.
Okay. After driving, all the lights were out. No car was louder than the other. Not one person was louder than the others. No movie was favored more than the other. After both movies showed, all the cars pulled the soon-to-be empty lot, leaving my friends and I sitting in silence, waiting on the sun to come up and bring the morning.
Okay, what kind of things did you hear in that paragraph that were similar to Vonnegut's writing? Yeah, okay. We had parallelism. Okay, we had a repetition of no and then a similar structure in the sentences. She also started with short, simple sentences, and then by the end, what did she do in that last sentence? It was longer and more complicated, right? Her tone was relatively informal. It wasn't super formal. Okay, so she did a really good job getting some of those things in there. Anyone else? BJ, go ahead.
There's something about having power. It makes you happy, it makes you glorious, it makes you excited, but above all, it makes you creative. You start to create more, and more, and all at once it overpowers you until you no longer have it, but it has you in the palm of its hand.
Okay, same thing. You did a good job with your parallelism there. You started with your short, simple sentences and ended on that very long, complicated sentence. Now, not only did she end on that very long, complicated sentence, but where did she make her important point in that paragraph that she emphasized?